Yeah, let's get a pulse on the local market as it seeks to extend its rally, as I said, to count into week number 6. Peter McGuire joins us now from XM here in the studio. Pete, great to have your company.
Good morning, Andrew. Good morning, Nadine.
Good morning.
Can we do it?
I think we can. I mean, have a look at it. Everything is Bazooka led as far as a tsunami with stimulus. So that Christmas rally, we're baking a cake at the moment. We've got plenty of funds coming in as far as the Fed and everyone pushing dollars in, and the ECB. So I think that upward momentum, US dollar softness, and that's where it all runs through for the next couple of weeks.
And we've got central banks this week.
You bet.
ECB amongst them. What do you expect, Pete?
Oh, I don't think they're going to surprise anyone. That euro strengthened to about 121. The euro, they're in a dire position. I see, numbers out of Italy, 24,000 a day as far as COVID, and that's just the first phase. So it's going to be a very bleak Q4. We understand the numbers there, so stimulus all the way. And as long as they don't over-deliver, they stay with the projected numbers, I think that everything's going to be A-OK.
It's a real sort of conundrum right now. So we've got some saying that the central banks have run out of firepower in terms of stimulus, and then others, really growing increasingly concerned about inflation as we head into 2021.
Well, of course, but when you're thinking about inflation, as long as we've got energy prices under control, if they ramp up to 65, 70 bucks a barrel, then that changes the landscape. But at these current prices, I don't see, a big push up as far as inflation. The Fed are saying, you've got a couple of years of cheap money. So maybe that momentum, we need inflation to get us back to some form of growth, but we've got growth in every aspect. Property, equities, have a look what's happening here. It's just incredible.
Speaking of commodities with oil prices, what's the view on iron ore? That's been a pretty spectacular run.
Yeah, bid up. I mean, 145, 150, everyone's long, and it's a great time to be a miner. Playing also favourably as far as those, the situation in Brazil, COVID, decimating their economy. So, we've always been a cheaper freight to push forward. As long as we don't get hit on the head like our coal mine or our coal production, they seem to be, from a geopolitical stance, China has an interesting, how would you say, their viewpoint. They've got 7 or 8 commodities that they're hitting us hard on, and iron ore seems to have a green light. So let's see what happens over the next couple of weeks if that changes.
Yeah, it's hard to talk about iron ore without mentioning China.
Of course it is.
And of course, they're such a big consumer of it. A lot of it, of course, going into all this stimulatory infrastructure building.
Of course.
But they've been doing that for so long. There was criticisms years ago, I remember, from uneconomic construction here. When does that come to a head, or is it just they're a controlled economy, they can do what they like, these aren't considerations?
Well, they are a controlled economy. The other side is they've played us very much as far as the renminbi for the best part of 35 years. So, it shouldn't be pegged. And there's the other side. So they've been able to do that and play us very, very successfully. You've got intellectual property theft. You've got all sorts of issues that have come forward as far as the CCP in China. So let's just see what happens over the next matter of, a couple of months if that rhetoric changes towards our miners.
Sorry, just one more question on that.
Yep.
The other side with iron ore, of course, is the supply side of things, and you've mentioned what's happened with Vale there. How quick will that situation reverse? Can the others just meet any kind of gap there? Or?
Well, I think we're meeting, some of the production numbers coming out of Australia are just off the chart. So We're doing incredibly well. The other side is, COVID. How deep is that going to be as far as Brazil and across South America? So, in some ways, it's a perfect storm for the Aussie miners. It's playing very, very nicely for them.
Talk to us about oil, because we kind of glossed over that, considering it's up 32% since November the 2nd. So where do you see this market headed as we move closer to 2021?
Well, we had the OPEC Plus meeting last week. It took 4 days to get an actual result. Went in there Monday, and there was talk that it had come out Tuesday. It was still being debated Thursday evening our time. I think there's further push. The US dollar's come under a big push to the downside, Nadine. So that oil story has been one-way traffic, commodities, energy, copper, you name it, all been bid up. If you didn't make $1 in November, give the game away. And I think there's possibly another $1 or $2 in it. Who knows how far it can go, stretch forward. But you'd have to say at some point, is that US dollar ready for everyone short? Is it ready for a rebound? Is something out of left field going to take place? I'm always conscious of those big moves that can really change the landscape, and I think at the moment it seems to be onward and upward.
Mm-hmm.
It does seem, doesn't it, that so often when everyone's bearish, that's the best time to buy, and conversely when everyone's super bullish,
Of course it is.
You know, we look.
That's what traders do, Andrew, for a living.
Do you know what I mean? Like in March, it was very scary. Everyone was very nervous, understandably. But you know, in hindsight, wow. I mean,
Perfect time for short.
So I'm just wondering. I'm probably a bit of a leading question here, but I'm just wondering with everyone, and we speak to a lot of people on the show. The mood is very positive at the moment. Is that
it is.
in and of itself reason for concern?
I'm not saying it's reason for concern. No. We're a stimulus-led rally that's just been one-way traffic. The black swan event at the moment would have to be the US election and what happens there. And I hear press, I read, I spend a lot of time watching TV for a living, and I'm conscious that if something left of field happens as a black swan event that really changes the political landscape in the US and Biden and Trump, that really starts to increase its velocity across those states as far as being contested, that could be the black swan event. So that is the contrarian. Everyone's short. Maybe we're going to see a massive rally in dollar. Maybe you'd see a sell-off in equities. I mean, some of the rhetoric. I watched Maria Bartiromo this morning. Just incredible. She's the queen. You know that on CNBC, and she went to Fox. She is regarded as probably one of America's leading business anchors.
Well, she was. To be honest, Peter, she's come under a lot of fire because she's been a sycophant when it comes to Trump.
Absolutely. No, I'm agreeing with that. But just that some of the comment coming out, it was just incredible as far as what Giuliani's saying, you know, and when you're hearing this...
COVID positive Giuliani, yeah.
Yeah, well, there's another point, yeah. So I'm only looking from a trading perspective, not from political stance, but from trading. What are those events, to answer your question, Andrew, those black swan events that really lead to what do you have to look at? What are we facing into Christmas, and what does December look like? So... yeah, it's an interesting phase at the moment.
Whoa, it's always interesting, isn't it, Peter?
You bet
Thank
yourself.
you so much for coming in this morning.
Thank you,
Always
Nadine.
appreciate it. Peter
Cheers.
McGuire there joining us from XM.